Hi, I'm Nick Bailey. I'm the Alliance Director from CMS, here with Digitate today to talk about a brilliant opportunity for AI into the marketplace. So we are CMS Digitate, great partnership. So who are CMS? CMS, roughly £500 million turnover today, started by Frank Salmon in 1988. And he had a vision. He said, look, I want to take innovative technology to smart customers. And he's continued to do that through his journey from the start where he was to where we are today. What we tend to do is we take on vendors, like to get really deep with them so we can enable and empower our partners to take them to market. I think that's really important, and we're really about white space. So it's new vendors into new customers. We're always looking for new customers, always looking for the new. So partnership with Digitate just seemed like really fantastic. AI is obviously a brand new thing, but working with you guys, letting us understand what it's all about has been fantastic. So Digitate, what do you think about CMS, and a brief bit about the Digitate story maybe?
Yeah, so kind of quick history of who Digitate are. So we're a software vendor focusing on AI solutions. Currently just under a couple of hundred customers globally, and typically these are kind of the largest global kind of globally dispersed businesses in the world. So we're looking at large enterprise customers. That's typically where we've started off, but there is kind of a big space lower that kind of mid-enterprise, mid-market that can benefit, because we're not talking about teams of data scientists having to build solutions. These are pre-built, pre-packaged, pre-trained
I think that's important we come on to that AI bit, because we were talking earlier that AI isn't super complex. It's actually not that difficult, and Digitate have done a brilliant job, right, of making AI into a box and actually simplifying it down, but still maintaining all the benefits. Is that right?
Yeah. So you can kind of look at Ignio, which is our product, as the underlying platform. It's the intelligence. So we're looking at machine learning, deep learning, the intelligent automation, and essentially trying to replicate the service and support of a human, and actually take that into a product. So the Ignio platform is kind of broken off into 6 different products, and each product has decades of domain expertise pre-built into it. So when it actually is deployed into an environment, it understands what's a network switch, what's storage, and how are all of these components connected. So it already understands how to identify root causes, because it understands what a healthy looking server is. And if something's misbehaving down the stack, it's able to identify where that problem is, and actually then go and take action, because it's pre-built with the knowledge of how to fix certain actions.
Brilliant. And people would say, well, why would Digitate work with CMS and CMS with Digitate? And I think for us, it's really simple. So like I said, we want to take innovative technology to customers, to empower them, to enable them, which is our legacy. And you've probably identified that and seen that we do that. We go to new markets, we're super proactive, go and talk to our customers. In the short time we work together, we've been doing a lot of that. And clearly, from having those new type of products is really important to CMS. We want to grow out what we're doing into the enterprise space. So what were your thoughts on our partnership, and why did you select us?
Well, really excited about the partnership, and as kind of the aforementioned points that you are, you're more agile, so you can really get a lot of focus. And that's essentially because we're talking about new technologies into the channel. There is a lot of enablement and training and education that's required to kind of skill up the sales.
And that's the key point, isn't it? I think the key point is it's all very well taking on a vendor, but I think what's so important is for Stefan, our super technical lead who understands it really well, to enable our salespeople to actually take it, because they've got to take it to the partner for them to take out. And I think if we're enabling those partners, empowering them to take it to markets, they understand it. And understand it's actually fairly simple and can be sold out of the box, because I think a lot of people look at AI and go, oh my God, this is so complex. Look at all these things it does globally. But actually, it starts at brick one. So it's like a Lego. As soon as you put one bit of information, it can start working out of the box. So it's not a case of implementing your products and waiting forever. They work from the moment you put some information in. So on day one, you can see some results. Now, clearly, the more that goes in, the better they'll get. But that's right, isn't it? So it's fairly saleable out of the box.
Yeah, the longer the product is in that environment, then it's going to start looking at trends and patterns and outliers. So it's not going to be as effective on day one.
Of course.
On day one, there will be benefits, and the user will see that, and they're able to automate kind of huge percentage of the kind of repetitive, mundane tasks that you kind of see. I mean, you've been in that world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think if I'd had Digitate back then, it would have been a lot easier. Right? I mean, I think you get tens of tickets a day that are someone asking you to do something like change a password. It's a job that takes 5, 10, 15 minutes to do, but it's doing that over and over and over again all day that takes up a lot of time, and that's resources away from being more proactive and being able to go out and potentially solve bigger problems within the business. So it would have been fantastic for me back then for those line 1, line 2 tech support queries to have something that was able to take that away. And also take away the alerts and the things that make you have to look at your screen all the time. So yeah, it would have been fantastic. So yeah,
and typically people get dragged away from those smaller ones when a high level incident comes in.
Yes,
they're having to focus on. And it's not just the IT support team's time either, it's the actual employee. If they're locked out of their laptop and they're not able to do any work, that's an obviously financial impact on the business. And even if you're looking at people who are kind of subcontracted, that there's an actual monetary value against their head if they're not able to go out and provide services to their customers, then they're losing that money.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge cost of it. And if you think as well, a human can only do one thing at a time. So if you've got 100 tickets, the 100th person in queue's got to wait for however long that's going to take to get it started. So yeah, that's the great thing with Digitate is that the training, the bit that takes the time when you're building AI is already done. You've got 55,000 engineers' knowledge condensed down into this AI bot. It's incredible stuff to see.
So we know that AI can potentially be massively complex, and we talk about it can solve global climate change, it can solve farming issues, driverless cars, massive things, but actually it starts quite early in the piece. So partners will look at it and they want to take it to their customers. I think, well, what's the entry point? So seat-wise or business size, where would you say that Digitate could start out and actually make a difference to a business?
Yeah, so obviously each product's kind of it's licensed a little bit differently, because if you looking at ERP ops, we're looking at kind of the number of SAP users within the business. If you're looking at end user computing, it's the amount of end user devices that we're talking about. So each one's slightly different. I mean, I've come across kind of like online gaming customers that typically they might have 10 or 15 staff because of the nature of their business, but a huge turnover, and their kind of the infrastructure being up and running is mission critical. So it's kind of difficult on the kind of number of users. But if we're looking at end user computing, anything from 500 users up, and you're most likely to be able to find an ROI for that. And that's just kind of scratching the surface of what the ROI would look like, because the deeper you get in and the additional use cases you develop, you're saving more time and resources across the business.
So big, we know that obviously big enterprises, are using AI and people think like that, but because it clearly can come down to much lower levels, which is great, and it can be used out of the box, so it's more simple. The best way for customers to take this is really to use it and do proof of concepts. So could we just talk about what we can do around a proof of concept process? How long it might take before a customer might be able to see a return, and what's the process? So a partner can really take advantage of AI and what Digitate can do for them today.
Yeah, so in terms of POCs or POVs, however you want to refer to them as, from start to finish, you're probably looking somewhere around 6 weeks. Once you kind of understand what the customer's environment looks like, the sort of technologies that they're using, then you can start to look at what use cases are going to be most beneficial, where's the biggest impact going to be for their business. Then you can start to, once you've decided on those use cases, is a point where we can start the implementation on this date. Yep. So just some prerequisites, kind of like user access and provisioning some infrastructure or getting them onto our SaaS deployment. Then 6 weeks to the finish. And you're probably looking 4 weeks of that is actual use case deployment, and then seeing the benefits. But typically, the customer may see benefits within a couple of weeks.
And do you charge for proof of concept, or is that something they can just do free of charge if they're showing like they want to take it up as a good use case?
Yeah, for partners, we're definitely looking at partners who want to invest in this technology. They want to build services around it and offer support to the end user. So yeah, for those sort of partners, we're looking to invest in them to set up their own environments.
This is fantastic. CMS, obviously, we technically understand the product and really help with partners, and you obviously willing to help as well. So we're saying that we can enable partners really quickly to take AI ops to their end customers do proof of concepts for very little money, apart from understanding the environment completely. They can land, get one of your products in, and obviously you've got a suite of products, and potentially grow out to become, a really significant sale and add significant value to the end customer. We're saying we can do that, and it's going to cost the partner very little, apart from trying to understand and register with you as a partner. That's all that's required.
Yeah. So I've been in the channel for probably about 15 years now, so I kind of understand.
So we've done about 50 years.
So I understand kind of what partners are looking for, and for the past year or so, I've kind of been hearing partners' reservations about kind of investing in this sort of technology. But there are customers out there using this today. Some of the largest financial institutions in the world are using Ignio to manage their back-end systems. So for me, it's something that the channel should be getting behind, because an opportunity where a vendor's willing to open up to the channel in this space, there aren't really anyone, there's no one out there doing that at the moment.
So for those channel partners, what customer are they looking for? Like, what's the best use case for Digitate? I mean, we've spoken about like service desks, obviously is one, but where else does Ignio fit?
So if you look at it, the type of customer, the beauty of Ignio is it's industry agnostic, because we're talking about the back-end technologies and the systems and applications that are running these businesses. Every data center has the same sort of compute network, storage, database, OS. It doesn't really matter. So because we're technology agnostic in that environment, then it's any sort of industry can benefit from this if they have kind of your IT operations that they're running, or they may be outsourcing that support work to someone else, and there's a smart way to do that. And actually, when the support's being provided, typically it's looking at problem management and incident management, as opposed to what you touched upon earlier, that was actually going out and being proactive and stopping the issues from happening in the future. We have a lot of use cases in retail, finance, based on the kind of large customers we've been working with. But any business that is got tasks that they're having to manually process and manage, and be a good
what
fit.
we're seeing now, because we're talking about IT trends, is obviously work from home or work from everywhere. But data holds all the keys to any business, right? So people now are looking to use it, manipulate it for better business outcomes. They want, the business to type with IT, so they've got one go-to-market strategy and work more closely together. And AI is quite a cornerstone of that, because again, it's got so many applications and uses. So again, brilliant for partners really to now get into, actually be able to resell, if you like, and add value around AI. And Digitate is just the perfect product for that. It's a kind of an out of the box, which is why CMS love it, because we can add value to it and take it to market, and it's innovative and great, and customers can use it straight away. It's like, why would you not? It just seems crazy not to, because everything is moving towards enterprise. Storage is growing massively, use cases are growing massively. So it just feels like everybody should at least have a look at this, right?
Yeah, and it gives different types of partners the opportunity as well, because if they're just looking at
anybody can get into
this. If they're looking at resell, yes, it is a software, it's a resellable license, or get them into a kind of recurring SaaS opportunity. But away from that, you've got services that you can provide on implementation and use case development, where you can start to kind of expand Ignio's footprint within the environment to go and, explore different processes that might need attention, or different business units. I mean, we've got 6 different products, so there's a lot of exploration for partners.
If you take an AI product into an end customer and you start implementing doing that, I mean, look at the insights you've got into their estate and how sticky you get with the customers. So again, it's just like, I don't understand why any partner wouldn't be going and asking a question of their end customers today, because so many must be in this space and looking for these solutions. It just seems perfect.
I think one of the other things as well is, when you're talking AI with people, their main fear is the hardware outlier for the cost, because when you're doing training, you have to have really expensive GPU servers, you've got to have very, very fast storage, colossal amounts of data to get these AI trained to the point where they're actually useful. But you guys have done that legwork in the training, and this entire thing's in the cloud, right? So it's fully managed.
Well, they have the option; they can put it on-prem. But then you're only looking at a small footprint for the Ignio platform to sit on.
Yeah, because the training's already been done. So it's just So I think that side of it's another area that people get very scared of with AI. Is they hear about all these neural networks that cost millions to run, but actually this is an entry point where that's already been done. All you have to do is let it loose and see what it can do. I mean, that's where we started this journey with you doing a demo for me and showing me how Ignio worked. And I watched it pick up an email. It didn't know what to do with it, so I went and assigned it to a human and then watched what it did and learnt from all of that process, then comes out the other end. It's an incredible tool to see. And that's the great thing, you can see it in action. It's not something you take on faith that, oh, maybe AI can be useful. You just have to sit there and watch a demo and go, oh, wow. Instantly, that's an impact on my business, and I know that for a fact that that's going to reduce my IT overhead.
And what I love about it, obviously, I'm more commercial. And you're
I'm a nerd.
And I'm not great. But again, I could go onto the Digitate website and I could look at. They had use cases. They've got white papers. They've got simple one-page PDFs on the product, which I love because obviously some of this stuff gets quite deep, but I can, even if I can understand anybody can, but I can actually read a one page that tells about the product, how to sell it, how to license it, how to look for opportunity. That's really great. And then obviously CMS have actually said, okay, well, how can we take that to our partners for them to package it up and actually take them to their own partners? So again, the smooth process, ease of conversation. And again, the most important thing is to identify opportunity for our partners. And then CMS and Digitate, we can help them close those opportunities. Yeah. So if they just come to us and they say, like, they've got problems around batch, super high batch processing, or they've got, they need some ops stuff. We are perfectly positioned to help them close that sale, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, if I'm in that partner, my value is adding to the relationship I hold with the customer, and being able to bring them new technologies and start conversations with them. What we're offering here is use that relationship, talk about at a very high level AI and some of the different business units that Ignio covers, then just bring us in. CMS Digitate will help support the partner and take them on that whole journey, so they're not having to put resource up front to train people up and go on week-long training courses and do online training. They can actually learn as they go. That will show them how to sell this. And in some cases, it sells itself.
Yeah.
Say when you get into the demos.
It's not super complex. It's not like really difficult. Yeah, once you understand the principles, and again, there are people in your organisation, and we've got Steph as well, who really, really get this stuff and actually can go and talk coherently to customers. So, you identify the opportunity, we'll do a lot of heavy lifting, and you'll create a sale. Yeah. And what was it? The other thing I wanted to cover off was cost, because most people have got AI, think, oh my God, millions, because it's got to be super expensive. But actually, I'm not saying this is cheap, but it's not super expensive. It's not hundreds of thousands, or I guess it can as it scales, but entry level points are, really, really.
Depending if you just have a few use cases that you could kind of start fairly small, identify a certain part of the business that you want to look at this. But essentially, what we're not looking at implementing AI and not have benefits. We're looking at resource reduction. If we're not reducing the cost somewhere, no one's going to buy a product that costs them more than what they're going to save, unless it's something
also the ROI
very
examples,
specific.
you've got to have really good ROI examples and stuff. That's what we love, because obviously, ultimately, will a customer spend £1 million if they're going to save or make 10 million? Yes. But obviously it starts a lot lower than that. But again, if they can spend 50,000 or 20,000, whatever, and again see returns or return investment on 5-10 times that, again, it's a fairly no-brainer for that. And again, there's lots of examples that we can show and demonstrate for customers, isn't there?
I think Digitate's got that great thing as well. It's got that kind of eureka moment. So you'll bring it in for that first thing that you're working on, that first project, be that service desk. And then once it's in the business and you see what it can do, you start thinking about, actually, maybe this could help us with that problem. Maybe it could help us with this other thing. So actually, it's a snowball from what we've seen already working together, that every project we've talked about, it starts with one question and one thing. And then as soon as people start realizing what it can do for them, it just snowballs. And you start seeing more and more things getting pulled in, and it's an incredible thing to watch.
I think when we had our first conversations, you were saying that once you get a customer with one of your products, they almost always take more and grow out. It very rarely is a static sale.
They're going to want to have the conversation at least to go, well, let's have a chat about it. Let's see what else we can do. I mean, if you say we're starting kind of a small deployment and looking at particular use cases, once they've paid for the licensing for that particular technology environment, they can scale out the use cases with no additional cost. I mean, we help provide training education to the user so that they can do that themselves. There's also the ability for the partner, once we've trained them up and skilled them up, that they can go and help their customer with use case development. So they can use part of the Ignio product called Ignio Way that shows kind of the levels of automation that have been implemented, help them identify different areas that they could use that, so that they can see a kind of a real-time ROI of what Ignio's doing in the environment and what the potential is. So for a partner, that's kind of perfect because it makes them so sticky in that customer relationship. And it starts them typically where I've seen most partners have relationships in the IT teams or the IT procurement team. But what we're talking about here is being able to go and approach different parts of the business, build new relationships, and start going to a higher level, because we're talking about business benefits when we don't need to talk about the actual technology underlying. We're actually going and having the conversation up here so that we can say, look, as a business, if we could reduce your resource requirements here so that you never have an outage again for your e-commerce platform or your banking website application, what benefit is that to you as a business? And then it starts to filter down towards the teams where then it gets a little bit more technical, that you're talking about, okay, how do we implement this? How's it going to integrate into our RTSM or our monitoring tools? That's where it starts to get technical. But from showing the value, I'm not technical in the slightest. It's quite easy to articulate the value once you start understanding the customer's business, where their pain points are, and how our breadth of solutions can go and manage that for them.
I think the great thing about AI and a lot of the products you do is, where people are entering, for example, the security market at the moment, that's pretty congested. There's a lot of players at a lot of levels there. It feels to me the stuff that you've got, we're almost at the beginning of the wave, right? So we know that everybody's doing it, and perhaps a lot of the bigger organisations are doing quite a bit of that. But in that lower level, it feels to me like there's a really big gap, really big opportunity. A lot of the customers are going on digital journeys, so we know that a lot of people spend an awful lot of time on work from home, work from everywhere. Now that's kind of bedded down. It's like, well, what do we do with the data? How do we streamline our process? How do we go on this digital transformation? What I love, like Ocado. Ocado are a food delivery company, but no, not anymore. They're now a tech company, because they're saying, from the minute they get their food into their warehouse to delivering to the customer's door, they can automate every single bit of it. Now that's going to require a massive amount of AI, machine learning, RPA, all the stuff that Digitate do. They're saying that that's the future for our business. So for many businesses, where they won't do the whole lot because they're different types, but most businesses will need some type of AI, some type of RPA, some type of ML, which Digitate deliver, which will improve business outcomes, make them more efficient, and most importantly, will enable us to be more proactive to their customers. Because I think we sometimes think of AI as just a responsive tool. It fixes things. It does things, but actually it creates opportunity, and it can highlight data that can actually allow businesses to be way more proactive and focus on getting out to their customers, as opposed to like the IT teams. Instead of sort of sitting there doing tickets, they can actually go and be proactive with businesses and look at what users are doing with their data, how it can help the business. So I think this is really, really important. It's not defensive, it's almost proactive promoting, and they can really use it to enhance and grow their business out. And again, from a very entry level right up to, how far does Digitate scale out? I mean, you obviously have massive customers as well, right?
Infinitely, yeah. if the customer's environment is big enough, say most of the customers we work with today are globally dispersed, large enterprise customers that typically have a lot of security concerns around data and allowing an AI to do something in their environment. But what we need to establish here is that Ignio doesn't go off and then go do what it wants. There are safeguards. You can tell Ignio if you just want it to give a recommendation, then you either approve that or you don't approve it, and it goes back into the queue.
So he was a line one tech support guy, right?
Yeah, so it's
you don't want him going on day one trying to answer people's questions.
It's pre-built with, say, tens of thousands of processes and automation, so it can do the job. But if the user's concerned, they can actually set those approval levels so that, same as any employee, before it can take an action, it would have to go and give a recommendation. And it starts to build the trust that you say, okay, Ignio's made 100 recommendations today. They're all pretty much what we would have done in that scenario. Let's start loosening the leash a little bit and let it go, and it can start to go then take actions on those ones that we've seen. So it's kind of it goes on the journey. If a customer is confident and they trust in what the product does, can go day one and no approvals, it will just go and automate a huge percentage of the workload.
Would you say that one of the barriers to entry for this kind of product at the moment is understanding about AI and like people's almost fear of it?
Misconceptions, I think. Yeah, that they obviously AI, when you're talking about kind of media and films, is it's going to take over.
It's going to take over the world. Yeah.
It's kind of
everyone sees Terminator.
Take away the science fiction actually, like it's science. It's actually a very entry level type thing. I mean, it can be used for very simple stuff. As we said earlier, the base of an AI is it literally takes the data it's fed. So if you fed it 2 bits of data, it works on 2 bits of data, right? And if it's 25 billion bits of data, obviously it can be far more expressive and do much more stuff. But that's what it is. It's really computing and using the most logical choice for the data it's been served with. I mean, that's ultimately what AI starts with, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I think people don't realise they interact with it every single day. It's on your phone. If you take a picture with your phone now, there's an AI that looks at that image and goes, could up the colours a little bit here or there, adjust it. And it does all that for you without you knowing. Or when you're doing things like predictive text. That's or Alexa, yeah, exactly. Yeah. All those things, they're all AI. They're all things that people interact with on a daily basis. If you'd gone back 10 years ago and said you're going to have a little box in your house that lasts to set a timer to remind you to turn the chips off in the oven, they'd have told you were mad, or I wouldn't have something in my house listening to me like that. But now it's second nature. If I don't have my Alexa in my in my kitchen to remind me when to take out the oven, I forget. So I think we're all interacting with it more than we think, and over time that fear will be dispelled. But it's when you really unleash the full power of these kind of things where businesses will see the benefit.
And I guess the huge proliferation of IoT, so everything
connected, absolutely,
right? The more data which will generate, and I did this thing for my business the other week, but at the end of 2020, the data universe was 44 zettabytes. But at the end of 2019, it was only 4.4. So every 12 months, the world produces all the data produced in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So look at that growth. AI, to make sense of all that data, is absolutely going to be just crucial and critical. So there's no doubt that the products you've got are just going to, explode and go forward. And really, partners should be getting on board with this right now because they can get at the entry point and get some amazing sales and really, get some customers. And we talked about stickiness. I think that's really important. So, CMS and Digitate together, I think it's a great partnership. And I feel like with our expertise and your products working together, pushing and promoting out for our customers and enabling them to take to customers is a really powerful message right now.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
So thanks for listening today. Hope you really enjoyed it. As you can see, CMS and Digitate together, great partnership, brilliant opportunity. Please come and talk to us. Go and talk to your partners. Great sale to be had. Once you get in, you can land and expand and help get sticky with your partners and really help them to progress their IO and digital transformation journey. Thank you.